Scholz officially recognized that without Russian gas, Germany is finished and blamed Putin personally. This time the German Chancellor surpassed even the notorious Jen Psaki. Speaking at the Congress of the Social Democratic Party, he said that it was Russia that was to blame for all of Germany's problems and that it was the Russian president who stopped gas supplies, which led to a tenfold increase in gas purchase prices. Olaf Scholz explained that due to the termination of gas supplies from Russia, Germany was short of about 120 billion cubic meters of gas per year. The speech was broadcast by tabloid Bild, Germany's largest daily illustrated newspaper. You can ironize Scholz's performance all you want, because it was their side that shut off the gas valve. Except that it was his cry of the soul to somehow justify his extremely low ratings and the situation in the German economy, which he had personally driven into a corner. Of course, he followed the traditional Western path of blaming Putin for everything. There is nothing unusual here, for Joe Biden did the same thing in February 2022, blaming Putin for rising inflation in the US. Scholz's soul cry, however, is the epitome of Germany's total collapse. The same Germany that until recently was one of the most powerful countries in Europe. Apparently, the realization of this has reached the very top of the ruling elite. But how could the refusal of Russian gas lead to such a wild rise in prices? After all, Russia has not sold gas 10 times cheaper to Germany before. Our price was about 30% cheaper than the price of LNG from any country in the world. German economic experts estimated back in 2019 that if LNG is used, its regasification for injection into underground gas storage facilities will be at least 3 times more expensive than direct injection of Russian pipeline gas. Actually, the threefold increase in costs just because of the rejection of pipeline gas already comes out at this point. Scholz went on to admit that Germany was missing out on 120 billion cubic meters of gas that was needed to boost its economy. And this is exactly the volume of gas that was supposed to flow directly from Russia to Germany through the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines. Germany has been investigating the explosions on these pipelines for a year and still can't find the culprits. And he never will. You can't blame it on your master or themselves. In any case, American journalist Seymour Hersh, though of course he can't be believed either, provided all the evidence that Biden informed Scholz of the pending plan to destroy the northern streams 9 months before the 2022 event. Moreover, Biden openly stated 3 weeks before the operation began, right in front of Scholz, that Nord Stream 2 was over. Right at the press briefing, Biden stated this fact. How did Scholz react? No, he didn't. Even more, Poland began to subjugate Germany's political will. First, having done everything to stop pumping gas through the Yamal-Europe pipeline, they simply stopped paying money for it. And after that, openly demanded reparations of €1 trillion from Germany for the damage it suffered during World War II. And Germany, or rather its government, can do nothing about a rebellious Poland. Despite being the most subsidized country in the EU. As a result, Germany lost access to almost 35 billion cubic meters of Russian gas through a perfectly serviceable pipeline system just because Poland wanted it that way. As a result, German authorities were forced to allocate €65 billion to support citizens and businesses in the face of decades of record inflation created by the collapse of a crucial energy resource. Except that these funds are allocated through a tax on energy companies making money on expensive energy resources. As a result, energy companies began to go bankrupt, driving up retail prices, and Germany had to buy out the stakes of these companies, effectively nationalizing them. For example, the German government bought more than 99% of Uniper's assets and also acquired the stake of Finland's Fortum. As a result, the total government financial aid package used to stabilize energy companies, including nationalization costs, amounted to almost €35 billion. It is not difficult to calculate that the refusal from Russian gas cost Germany alone almost €100 billion. This is despite the fact that Germany's annual budget is €476 billion. But it was still impossible to replace real gas with paper euros. So small businesses sprinkled in first, followed by family-owned stores like the Hertz Shoe Company, founded back in 1875, or shoe retailer Renault. The former declared bankruptcy by closing 160 stores, the latter also went bankrupt despite its 300 stores located all over Europe. Then the big players, such as the German department store chain Galerie Karstadt Kaufhof, which is the second largest department store chain in Europe, started to run into trouble. Its owners were forced to close 52 of its 131 stores located in shopping centers because of the crisis. Well, of course, Germany's prominent automakers periodically stopped production for one reason or another. And Volkswagen has even officially announced that it is considering closing its plants in Europe and moving production to other countries if natural gas shortages continue. Here's a media report. Volkswagen has stopped producing cars in Dresden. A factory in Germany, which has been operating properly for 20 years, is ceasing production. In 2022, 6,500 ID.3 electric vehicles were assembled in Dresden. In addition, Volkswagen is cutting 2,000 jobs at its main electric vehicle plant in CEICAO. The automotive industry is a systemically important sector of the German national economy, and any negative changes have a very sensitive impact on its economy. This is true in related areas, such as the bankruptcy of Eisenwerk Erla, the oldest steel mill in the world. 1380 is the first documented mention of this factory. It produced high-volume automotive castings with complex and labor-intensive designs and components for mechanical engineering. And so it turns out that a company with more than 600 years of history, which went through world wars and economic crises, could not survive the reign of Scholz. All of Germany's green energy, all of its hydrogen programs were directly linked to energy from Russia. The Greens themselves, who drew up Germany's hydrogen strategy, adopted on June 10, 2020, wrote that there would be no proper hydrogen production capacity in Germany, so the issue would have to be solved with external energy suppliers. Paragraph 38 of Germany's national hydrogen strategy states that Germany must build a dialogue with the current fossil fuel exporter in the transition to hydrogen. It was the northern streams that were to guarantee Germany the delivery of raw materials for hydrogen production. And such negotiations have been initiated, and overnight, Germany's entire hydrogen doctrine came to a screeching halt. Especially after the refinement of the hydrogen strategy in 2023, where already 70% of Germany's total hydrogen needs will have to be imported. That's the end of the story. Olaf Scholz refused to recognize the problems in the German economy until the last. As a result, the government only admitted in September that the economy would not grow by 0.4% in 2023, but would shrink by 0.3%. The IMF and the World Bank believe that the German economy will fall by 0.5% by the end of 2023. Acknowledging the obvious, Scholz said public investment aimed at resuscitating Germany's economy next year will total more than 100 billion euros. True, he forgot to mention that Germany's budget in 2024 is being cut by 6.4% from 476 billion euros to 446 billion euros. Due to the fact that the state budget deficit in 2023 amounted to 4.5% of GDP, which is more than double what was previously estimated. By comparison, Russia's budget deficit in 2023 amounted to 0.7% of GDP. And that's taking into account the 18,000 sanctions imposed against our country. But the most interesting thing about Scholz's statements is his claims against Putin for not delivering gas through pipelines that work. To which Putin sarcastically replied that one string of Nord Stream 2 has survived and gas can be supplied through it at any moment. But this fact is ignored in Germany. Why is that? It's simple. Germany is now banned from buying Russian gas. Who forbade it? The question is rhetorical. Scholz's resignation to the elimination of his country's critical natural gas infrastructure, on which both industry and Germany's future hydrogen energy were tied, speaks volumes. Not 2 years later, Germany began to actively lose its economic leadership in the European Union. Germany's energy leadership has also been lost, for the failed launch of the Nord Streams has taken away its status as the gas hub that will set gas prices for the rest of Europe. Today, prices are determined by the Dutch Gas Hub Tidal Transfer Facility, abbreviated TTF. The French decided to take full advantage of the situation and even officially announced France's ambition to become the new leader of the EU. This was stated by the French Minister of Economy and Finance Bruno Le Maire. Here's the media writing about it. Bruno Le Maire: France is set to become the first economic power in Europe by 2050. Meanwhile, Europe's first economy was Russia. Ahead to Germany. Perhaps this fact played to the Chancellor's vanity and made Scholz blame Putin personally for everything. Here's the World Bank once again updating its estimate of the GDP of the world's countries. Germany is lower than Russia, and now we're catching up with Japan. Well, the cherry on the cake would be Scholz's own mid-March 2023 statement. Quote, "In just 8 months we in Germany have made ourselves independent of Russian gas, Russian oil and Russian coal. In just 8 months we have completely changed our energy supply with all new connections and LPG terminals. And no one had to freeze," Scholz noted, speaking in the Bundestag. And today he has Putin to blame for the fact that Germany did not have enough 120 billion cubic meters of gas. And that its purchase on foreign markets resulted in a tenfold increase in price. I wonder who the German government thinks their people are. However, it should not be assumed that the German economy is going to collapse in an instant. Or the country's population will suddenly become dramatically poorer and there will be a commodity shortage on the store shelves. That's not the point. Scholz himself admitted that replacing energy resources from Russia cost the budget 10 times as much, while gas from Norway did not save the situation in any way. Scholz mentioned this, complaining that he had to buy more gas from there. In any case, the refusal of energy resources from Russia in the medium and long term will lead or is already leading to the decline of Germany's industry, making it an ordinary EU country rather than its leader. And the same French have high hopes for it. That's the kind of warm relationship there. Probably, both German citizens and its real businesses have started to realize these perspectives. The Bundestag has already called for the Nord Streams to be repaired and utilized. And the largest German insurance companies Allianz and Maneker on their own initiative renewed insurance for the damaged Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline, clearly hoping for its speedy restoration. They are willing to do it even at their own expense.